Step aside, hero. There's a new #1 Protoss in the world. What I've got for you today is the new #1 Protoss facing off against one of the very best Terrans. In game #1 of this best-of-3 series, we find ourselves on the map Ancient Cistern, spawning right here in the bottom left-hand corner. Playing with the blue Protoss probes, we have MaxPax. His opponent in the opposite corner with the red Terran SCVs, he goes by the name of Clem. Alrighty, so Clem facing off against MaxPax. Aligalek, just a couple hours ago, as of me making this video, they updated the current rankings, which they do a couple of times a month. In case you're unfamiliar, Aligalek, I'll leave a link to it down below in the description of this video. It basically keeps track of all of the tournaments that are being played in StarCraft 2, and, well, depending on how well you do in the tournaments and how well you do against specific opponents, you get ranked. And, well, according to that website, MaxPax is currently the #1 Protoss in the world. As a matter of fact, for what I think may very well be the first time, we now have a Zerg in the #1 position, that's Serral. We have a Terran in the #2 position, that's Maru. And we have a Protoss in the #3 position, which is kind of cool, right? I mean, we talk a lot about balance, we talk a lot about the map design, we talk a lot about, well, how competitive the game is. And obviously the game is never going to be perfectly balanced. I mean, not even chess is perfectly balanced, right? Even, you know, there's a couple of issues where apparently in tournaments, White has the slight upper hand because they get to go first. Anyhow, StarCraft 2 is never going to be perfectly balanced, but I love to see that all three races are competitive at the highest level of play. That being said, the main matchup that players are complaining about right now is the Protoss versus Terran matchup. MaxPax is one of the very few players who seems to be very good against Terran, so we'll have to have a look at exactly where he's currently at. That being said, he's going up against Clem. Clem has won many a tournament over the years. Even though Clem does play offline tournaments, most of Clem's success is also online. So we'll have to see exactly what ends up happening here in this particular series. Both of these players are playing from the comfort of their own homes, which is certainly something noticeable. Ooh. He's repairing the SCV. I was gonna say, I don't think well, now we have confirmation. I don't think an SCV can out-heal a probe's auto attack. Look at this Giga Chat over here. 1 confirmed kill to its name, plus he successfully delayed that supply depot for a little bit. Not bad at all. Alright, so Clem going for a quick little block over here in his opponent's natural. This has now forced MaxPax to take his third base first. This is something Protoss players absolutely hate. If you're a Terran, I highly recommend you do this every single game if you can pull it off, because it is very annoying for Protoss players. Zerg players already don't really like having their third base taken as their very first expansion, and Zerg units are about 10 times as fast as the average Protoss unit, okay? You can connect your bases with creep, the queens can kind of go in between, it's relatively doable. This is now going to force MaxPax into a pretty aggressive game, I believe. Not a whole lot of micro going on here just yet for Clem, just... yeah, okay, sacrificing one of those Marines, trying to buy as much time as possible. We're trying to play the little dance over here. Anyways, new units are gonna come across the map as well, and MaxPax is gonna go into his beloved Blink upgrade. This is something MaxPax does time and time again. He really is known for his Twilight Council play. There have been games. I saw this amazing game that he played recently against Hero Marine. I think I may have even casted that series, but I didn't point it out when I was casting it. Turns out, if you're really good at microing your Blink Stalkers and your Prism, you can actually attack Terran without ever losing a Stalker. And there was a game where MaxPax literally lost 0 Stalkers and absolutely destroyed Hero Marine. Every once in a while, though, we see these top-level Protoss players even execute a Blink Stalker opener with a Prism. And, you know, then they will make a mistake. This is already, I think, pretty good right here for MaxPax, right? I mean, if he loses a Depth, that's not really the main unit he's trying to go for. Okay, at the very least, Jimmy here does get the final shot, but now he needs to gun down a Stalker. Yeah, this is certainly a good beginning right here for MaxPax. So if he wants to go for some aggression, and there's that Prism coming up, I think right now would be the time. He also has positioned a Robo facility at the third base, which, again, is just ever so slightly more aggressive, because now, rather than spawning from here, the Prism is gonna spawn a little bit closer to the side of the Terran. Anyways, what I was trying to get at is that even at this level of play, we see Protoss players, well, sometimes looking absolutely brilliant. Like, for example, MaxPax, where they micro so well that they don't lose any Stalkers, and it looks unstoppable. But then at the same time, if you miscontrol for a little bit, you lose 1 Stalker here, 1 Stalker there, 1 Stalker, and suddenly it's a disaster. So the consistency is where a lot of players go wrong, even the very best, but let's see what MaxPax can do Now that his gateways are done, his blink is done, and the prism is coming across the map. Obviously, Clem sees this coming from a mile away. He doesn't have any bunkers here at the front yet. I actually would have liked to see that a little bit sooner, but he does start it up right now. Losing the prism would really suck, so obviously you essentially have double blink, right? So you can pick up right here with the prism, and you can blink the units as well to the back. Not a perfect game this time around for MaxSpecs, but still a good start. Combat Shields is gonna finish up here momentarily for the Terran player. Okay, he's trying to just walk the units backwards as well now. Yeah, chasing this down. The Marauders trying to do their best target firing, but that bunker's still not finished yet. It is going to get done here eventually, but obviously you can always go into the main base too, and, well, Clem is already suspecting that that is where that Protoss army is gonna be going next. Another base is going up right here for MaxSpec, so he's not going completely all in. But obviously with the mules currently, Terran is feeling pretty good about their economy. Here we go, though. This is a big push right now. We don't have any medevacs or anything along those lines out just yet, so every single one of these stimpaks is going to be rather expensive. SCVs pulled away from their post as well to try and soak up some damage. A few of them have gone down here so far. But yeah, MaxSpecs is not going to let go of this very easily. You can mess up with the micro, right? But you can also very easily mess up with the macro, because you're trying your best to pick up stalkers with the prism and all that, but you also want to make sure you're actually warping in units with the prism. But in order to warp in, you have to be stationary, right? So it's a little bit tricky. Okay, once again, good little bit of movement right here, though, by MaxSpecs, right? When you see him doing it, it's so fluid. It's really nice to see. If Terran right now, for example, hits a supply block or just, misses a production cycle, it is game over. Charge has just started up. I actually don't think that that was supposed to be, well, a bunch of slow zealots over here. Maybe he's just trying to soak up some damage, maximize the DPS that he can do. Blink is gonna be available again soon, but does he even really need it? Look at the amount of HP that those Marauders have, man. It's very tempting to stick around for a bit longer, but I do think Clem is gonna be able to defend this eventually. Very soon we'll have, 4 medevacs out, and even though they don't have a lot of energy right now, they are going to be very useful at healing those units back up to full. Nice, a little bit of micro right there as well by Clem, trying to make as much here out of this army that he can. 13 SCVs though, well, 14 apparently in total. Obviously one of them was killed by Probius, how could I have forgotten? 14 workers here killed in the earlier stages of the game, and now MaxSpecs has a natural. Yeah, we've seen Protoss player do 17 different openers over the last couple of years, but the good old Blink Stalker Prism with the 4 gateway opener is fantastic. It's really good, assuming you execute it really well, and I guess that's where a lot of players fall a little short. Really only 2 Protoss players seem to consistently get value out of this opener, and that's MaxSpecs and then also Hero. Coincidentally, those are also the 2 best Protoss versus Terran players in the world, so hey, go figure. Anyhow. Yeah, if you're struggling in this matchup, just micro better, guys. just blink. Come on. Just blink and pick up and macro and make a nexus on the back of it. Make sure you start up a robo bay and all that too, because Terran's certainly got a counterattack. Just micro better. Come on. Like, when you're bad at the game, just consider not being bad and be good instead. How hard can it be? We now have 8 gateways though. Charge is done. Prism's still around too. This is actually kind of scary right now though for Clem. I actually didn't think MaxSpecs was going to continue onward with the aggression, but with 8 gateways, he can get a lot of reinforcements in. Here's the Sentry showing up as well, together with the Immortal. Immortals are amazing against Marauders in particular. Well, there's 2 of them now, so that's pretty sweet. +1 is going to finish up here for the Protoss units too. Are we going to blink that one Stalker? We are. Minimizing the damage. Excellent set of force fields right there as well by MaxSpecs. Clem just scanned his opponent's natural expansion to confirm whether or not that's the case. So, matter of fact, there's already a 4th base coming up right now as well for MaxSpecs, who's happily expanding behind this. So far, though, this attack hasn't done that much damage yet, but now a bunch of SCVs are starting to fall. This non-stop aggression, man. It's actually insane. Very easy to accidentally mess this up here as Protoss. But MaxSpecs doing a fantastic job. Okay, so he's decided to go for the Colossus. Normally, after the 4-gate aggression is done, we see Terran going in for the aggression, right? That's usually the next move. Now, I don't think this Prism is gonna live. Nah, little bit overly aggressive. But in a way, this is just buying time, right? Despite killing a couple of units here and there, sniping a bunch of SCVs, this is buying a lot of time. One problem that these Colossi run into is that they take a long time to produce and they're really expensive. Preferably, you also get this upgrade done before the Terran goes for an attack. I don't think that's going to happen, because Clem right now is finally ready to go for a fight himself. Sure, he's lost a bunch of workers. 22 is significant. But he's also got a bigger army here still. So if we look right now at the army supply count, 70-ish versus 50-ish. This does mean that, well, Clem's army is big. He decided to secure the 3rd command center here, and he's not actually going for an attack yet. Maybe in his mind he can't really go for a push anymore because, well, he's been delayed for such a long while already. MaxPack's also going now in with the very common move, right? The Zealots. He loves sending in Zealots. He's usually very good at keeping them around for a while longer too. Widowmine drop over here, perfectly controlled against. Look at, are you looking at that? I'm gonna rewind it. I'm gonna rewind it. I'm gonna slow it down, okay? We're gonna go to like 75% of normal speed or something. So while everything else is happening, okay, maybe this is a little too slow. It turns out if you micro your units perfectly, and you blink after the charge of the attack is actually, okay, back to the regular speed. You blink at the perfect moment, you can negate the entire Widowmine shot. It's little moves like that. Yeah. What is ironic is that I read Reddit quite a bit, I go to the forums quite a bit, and I always find it kind of funny whenever players talk about Protoss being the all-army, the F2A move race, right? So all-army attack move race. Maybe that was the case in 2010, man. But for some reason, that stigma is still around for Protoss players. I would go as far as to say that Protoss players micro harder than anybody else out there. Yep, I'm gonna say it. I believe that the top level Protoss players micro more than the top level Terrans and Zergs. There you go. And I say this as a Zerg player myself. I don't micro. I just attack move, okay? After I set up a surround, most of my control comes down to splitting up maybe a little bit, microing the banelings into ghosts, for example, but very little individual unit micro. Anyways, maybe that's incorrect. I know Terrans micro an insane amount as well. I've casted a lot of Terran games lately, actually, where I could have said the same thing about Terran, but genuinely though, basically what I'm trying to get at, right? Maybe I don't need to make such an extreme statement, but the idea of Protoss just all army hotkeying and F2A, it's insane. It's just, if you look at these games, you must notice that these guys are incredibly skilled. Anyways, good EMPs right here as well from Clem though. There's a prism once again going into the main base. We can easily see 12 zealots here in just a heartbeat. Although we're just gonna dive pretty deep. Are we gonna do another big warp in? I think we are. Yep, there it is. That was me pretending to know how to rapid fire zealots. Beautiful. Once more, we're denying economy. Dark Templar on the back of this too. We've got a double Disruptor now coming up. The thing is though, Protoss players don't really like being in this position of the game. This is the position where Terran seems to usually get the upper hand, so really impressive stuff here by Clem. Keeping his units alive for a very long time. Okay. The EMP is terrifying here, right? So now we don't really have a lot of shields anymore. We don't have a lot of energy anymore. But that fight over there was really solid, though. So many clumped up Terran units. You gotta be careful, though, that you don't overextend the arc. Ooh, my god, that Disruptor was coming out of left field, man. That was very risky. Yeah, this is the overextension that we see time and time again, where Protoss players are like, ha, I've been doing amazingly well. And then suddenly, you have to retreat. And the Protoss ends up losing a bunch of their big, heavy hitters. Well, for basically what seems to be free to the Terran counter. Clem right now, showcasing to us why he's considered to be the best Terran player on the European region. Going for the 4th base here. Zealots in the main being annoying, Dark Templar in the main also trying to just be as obnoxious as possible. In the meantime, we have a Protoss army moving on over towards that base that is, well, gonna try and morph into a planetary fortress here momentarily. There it starts up. Zealots over here as well on the left side of the map. Prism in the main base was denied. Disruptors at the front as well. Do we have enough right now? We decide to just stim straight on top of it. Great pickup right there by Clem. I let go of my mouse hand, so I stopped observing the game right there. Because I was fist bumping in the air. I'm such a nerd, sorry. Clem, though, getting a fantastic engagement over there. Snipes a couple of the units, but he does lose 17 SCVs in the meantime. That is sick. Honestly, really, really impressive work here by both players. 88 probes right now, though, for MaxiPax. Another base coming up. I haven't even pointed out this expansion here at the 6 o'clock position. Double upgrades here. We're getting into 3-3. Terran, Well, he's been up against the wolf for a long time. He doesn't even have remotely the same upgrades right here that MaxSpecs has. And that is something worth noting, because these Protoss units, they are gonna pack a punch. Against 3-3 Terran, this would be incredibly difficult, but right now, I mean, the Disruptors are also getting some really good value in. Yeah, right now, these Protoss units, the Stalkers and the Zealots, I guess the Disruptors too, they are dealing a ton of deeps. A lot of DPS, damage per second. Alright, Clem once again on the offensive, trying to grab a couple units on the retreat, but with Disruptors, you can just, okay, you can continue bowling them. Hoping for a strike. Genuinely a beautiful game, man. These guys are so skilled, it's insane. I actually really like this game right now for Maxi Packs, though. I mean, I've been liking it basically the entire time, but that being said, normally when I'm casting a PvT and Terran has gotten to this point with their economy, usually I'm starting to favor the Terran quite a bit, but the upgrades, man, the upgrades are just so good right here for Protoss. And he's got expansion after expansion taken, 93 workers as well, man. He is not letting go. MaxSpecs pushing forward right now. Terran reinforcements are going to be needed. There's that Disruptor finally connecting. MaxSpecs has been fishing for a little while, right? You can micro against it for a long while. Like, for example, right there, excellent target firing there by the Frenchman. But sometimes even the best Terrans, they end up taking one of those big balls to the face. We're really gonna need another command center soon here for Clem. I mean, if he doesn't, he needs to win the game with the army that he's making right now, but MaxSpec can reinforce this for days. Even if he loses a full Nexus, which I don't really see happening very quickly, even if he loses one of them, he's still gonna have a superior economy. He's still gonna have better upgrades, he's still gonna have all of his unit production. He's got triple robo facility production. We have an Immortal, a Disruptor, another big hit over there, and a Colossus all coming up at the same time. Now an Observer. This man is macroing each and every one of his individual structures there. Okay, Zealots moving in as well from the left. Widow Mines do shut that down, but now there's a push over here on that planetary fortress. SCVs are hiding in this location. Still though, the planetary does hold for quite a while. This is a very expensive trade for our Protoss player, but Clem realizes it. He can't face the army, he doesn't have the upgrades, and now he also lacks the economy. Brilliant game right there for MaxSpecs. Genuinely a Protoss versus Terran masterclass. The thing about the style, though, that he plays is that it's very hard to copy. Right? You can look at the build order. Build order-wise, it's not very complex. I mean, you go for 4 gateways, you get Twilight Council, you go for Blink, get a Prism. Right? That's not the difficult part. The difficult part is the execution. I guess that's the main difference. Maybe that's a better way to explain it, right? So you can, for example, as a Zerg, you can study Cyril's opener until like the 6-minute mark. And you can copy it basically to a T. You can practice that in custom games. I don't know, you can do that for like a month straight and you'll be much better at the matchup that you're trying to improve in, right? So say, for example, Protoss versus Zerg from the Zerg's point of view. You just macro up, you go for that build, and usually the micro is relatively limited. It mostly comes down to, well, scouting what the opponent is doing and then making sure your units are in the right position at the right time. Meaning either the queens, for example, or, well, you setting up a surround so you can wrap around that army when it comes to cross the map. MaxSpecs' build here is not very difficult. It's the execution that is very hard, because the only way you can properly train micro, there are some arcade maps, I suppose, but you really just have to do it repeatedly over and over and over again, with the margin for error being so tiny. Well, that is obviously the case with every StarCraft 2 strategy out there. The top level players, they will basically be, dancing on an edge the entire time. They will try their very best to, well, just squeeze as much value out of their armies and economies as possible. So they'll produce units when they absolutely need to, for example, right? You'll see Zerg players do this all the time, where they will quite literally have like 4 Zerglings and 60 drones, and you're like, okay, that seems that seems dangerous. Could go wrong if you don't scout perfectly. But anyways, Clem going for a single gas opener, but with a quick factory right now on the back of this. Okay. So, yeah, he didn't go for an SCV scout this time around. We'll have to see exactly what he decides to go for. This is gonna allow him more units in the earlier stages of the game, but obviously a little bit less economy. We're seeing the command center building in the main base again as well. This is something that works if you're, well, afraid of Protoss aggression. Cybercore is done right now for mech specs. What are we gonna go for? Twilight Council, Stargate. It's gonna be a Stargate right here for mech specs, okay. A little bit of build order variety. The same can be said right here for Clem. Clem going for a starport on the other side of the map, okay. So I'm assuming this is gonna be a Hellion drop. Oftentimes you can get the Hellions towards the other side of the map completely unscouted. Well, right now the Hellions get spotted, I suppose, so that already is a pretty big indicator, but well, we have a supply block right here. Hello. Okay. Clem, that was not quite ideal, I don't think. Maybe queuing up a bit too much there. I'm not exactly sure what went wrong. Anyways, he's gonna finish up the command center, excuse me, momentarily, so that's gonna give him quite a bit of supply, but still takes a moment. Anyhow, the idea is that you get those Hellions towards the other side of the map, you load them into the plane, and then you go from there. Clem really needs to push back these Protoss units, because this is effectively denying... Oh, this is effectively denying his attack right now. Okay, so Stalker goes down, that's lovely. Adept is back, but we have the, yeah, the Medevac over here as well. MaxSpecs hasn't seen this, so he doesn't know. Okay, here we have the boost coming in. That is a cool way to pick up your units, but maybe not ideal, because now we don't have a boost available. MaxSpecs, he sniffed it out perfectly. Yeah, that was some suspicious Hellion production right over there in the earlier stages of the game. That being said, though, he does see them coming in, but he doesn't really have enough. Good target firing here as well. Getting that low HP Hellion from earlier, you need 3 of them to one-shot the probes. So at this point, this push has been dealt with. That Medevac is gonna go down. I thought this was gonna be an Oracle, and maybe MaxSpecs was planning on going for an Oracle as well. He doesn't have energy for a pickup right now, by the way. It's a little bit awkward. There's gonna be a new Phoenix available very soon. Okay, 8 workers end up going down here in total. The thing is, you go for this build, and you delay your own command center, right? And right now, it's gonna be Protoss in the driver's seat. Usually, as soon as these sort of attacks get shut down, I mean, at least the Medevac lives. I guess the Medevac, we could have easily chased that one down. Anyways, yeah, now Protoss is gonna have full map control, and they can do whatever they like. Usually what they like is a transition towards Colossus, but MaxSpecs is gonna go for a Twilight Council and a 3rd base. Okay. Medevac? It's too bad, buddy. Yeah, no, you had that entire trip, produced on the other side of the map, flew through to the left, all the way to the... and then you died anyways. It's a little bit sad, but it is what it is. Yeah, this is definitely not a bad position for Clem. But it does feel a little bit scary still, right? Because now Protoss basically gets to do whatever they like. And even though MaxSpec showed some amazing blink control in game number 1 of this series, we do have him transitioning towards charge here. So we have charge together with a forge right now. Okay. Now, of course, there are some attack movie unit compositions out there. Most of them are based around zealots with charge. For example, Archon Immortal Zealot is very much so all-army attack move, right? We have a couple of unit comps. Mass Carrier definitely feels like that too. But yeah, every race in StarCraft 2 has that. Yeah, Terran maybe to a lesser extent. Zork most definitely does. I guess Terran with mech. Yeah, if you play that like very slow, methodical mech army, you don't really have to micro your units that much. Anyhow. Clem happily macroing up right now, though. Trying to just make as much stuff as possible. He's keeping an eye out right here as well on the Phoenix situation. How many Phoenixes are there? It's difficult for Terran at this point to scout, so he doesn't really know what he's playing against. There's a few assumptions you make. So you definitely assume that there is a base done at this point. A 3rd base, that is. That also means that you have to go for a move out relatively soon. This is a little bit different, though, than what we normally see. So how many gateways are we on? We're currently at 6 gateways. +1 is gonna finish up here, I think maybe right in time, maybe a little bit too late. Probably wanted to start up that fort ever so slightly sooner, but we're gonna need a lot of army here. Widow Mines, of course, are available, but not with this main army. I think we have Widow Mines, didn't I? Yeah, we have Widow Mines. We have got 4 of them, but apparently they're not with the main army. Okay, Clem right now sees the Zealots, and does he just drive straight back home? I think he does. Okay, yeah, no, this was a trap being set up right here by MaxSpecs. ready to collapse on top of that Terran army. Apparently, he's giving MaxSpecs the benefit of the doubt. He doesn't see Colossi, so he decides, yo, I am out of here. I don't really know exactly what you're going for. I guess he assumes at this point mass blink or mass charge slot, something like that. But he apparently decides, yeah, no, I cannot really get this done. So most Terran players right now are playing a little bit slower in this matchup. They're going for more macro-focused styles, because as soon as Ghost hit the battlefield, life gets much easier for them. There are definitely also 2-base timing attacks that are terrifying, though, and, well, Clem still has sort of got that going for him. Maybe he was just waiting for additional Widow Mines here. Yeah, so now he's got 7 Widow Mines. Widow Mines are, of course, amazing against Zealots. Not if you all army hotkey them and then, you know, attack move. Again, you're gonna have to split, but we'll see how this goes. Yeah, Zealots at this point checking if there's a base over there on the other side of the map, and at this moment they have not been acquired. Okay. There's gonna be like a one moment of an engagement, right? So the Phoenixes can be used as well to drag the Widowmine fire into the Terran army. I wonder if that's what the plan is. Yeah, that's exactly what he decides to go for right now. Widowmines! Oh my god, dealing so much damage there as well to the Terran. Maybe not enough though, because a lot of those Terran units did end up living. Yeah, good position right there by Clem. Shoving his units behind the mineral fields, making it so that the Zealots can't really get a good service area. Clem right now moving forward though, trying his very best to get some value in. Okay. Zealots here on the other side of the map, trying to be annoying. Nicely done. Delaying the expansion at least a little bit. Widow Mines though. Ooh, that, wait. Did he just force field there? To try and maximize the damage that the opponent's Widow Mine did? Hold up. Because that would be kind of cute. Can we look at that engagement again? So, here we are. So, he sees the Widow Mine. Yeah, I think he force fielded to try and push all of those Terran units closer together, so the Widow Mine would deal more friendly fire. I mean, he's fighting Widow Mines with Widow Mines right now, which is kind of a cute way of doing it. I'm still not entirely sure if I like it, but at this point, Clem taking the supply lead. Very lovely work, but economically, he's not in the strongest position. And once again, we have a banger engagement over here. Those force fields are very dangerous, MaxSpecs. Okay, well, maybe he lost the supply advantage for a bit, but it is once again back. Can we keep this Nexus alive? This Nexus needs to live. Yeah, I do believe that the units were close enough. Okay. Good splits over there on the Zealots. These Widow Mines are gonna go down. We have a Robo Bay coming up as well. That is going to enable the production of Colossi as well as Disruptors, both of which are good against those Widow Mine-based armies. Okay. MaxSpecs on the offensive. Does he even have a prism? Yeah, he does have a prism. Okay. It's on the left side of the map. Warping in reinforcements right now. Ready to set up a sandwich once more. Zealots forced to split, but a lot of them do remain. Phoenix is still up in the air as well, slowly picking away at all of those medevacs. Good force field there once more though, trying his very best. There's a Widow Mine getting rid of a couple of the flying units, including a few of the Terrans. And yeah, this is the entire third base. At the very least, the SCVs here falling because of it. We don't have an observer close enough to get rid of these Widow memes. So that maybe sucks a little bit here for MaxSpecs, but the SimCity here is curious though for Clem, trying his very best to keep these Protoss units out. Here's the Widow Mines once again, trying to be annoying. This time around, we are gonna pick them off. Fair enough. He's just warping in so many Zealots. He's got 9 gateways producing Zealots right now. He's got a Robo Facility, a Robo Bay as well. I guess he's just going completely all in with this. He needs to be a little careful still. He didn't make a 4th Nexus or anything along those lines, but I guess with the opponent's 3rd command center not landed and it being the 11-minute mark, the main and the natural are going to start running dangerously low right here for the Terran. So if you can keep this fight going for a couple more minutes, Terran is going to run out of juice. Okay, Observer right there does get spotted. 4th Nexus does get produced as well. +2 has finished up as well for these Zealots, so they are going to be able to deal quite a bit of damage. This still feels like he's playing with fire though, because I can still see this going completely wrong. With a couple of good Widow Mine hits, life can be very difficult for the Protoss player. Here we go once again, denying that base for the 3rd time, I think. Just, yeah, pushing this army around as much as possible. A Colossus is coming up on the back of this. Zealots now in the main base too. Starting to work on some of those SCVs. Yeah, this man is an SCV murder machine. It started with game number 1, right? Probius. Even his probes, apparently, are like bounty hunters, man. They see an SCV. They know that there's a prize on their head, so 50 minerals. They immediately go in. I guess that's what MechSpecs and Hero do, more so than the other top-level Protosses. They make Zealots and Stalkers look like good units, okay? In everybody else's hands, they seem kind of mediocre at best. Like, when it comes to, like, StarCraft 2 unit tier lists, I feel like most people would probably rank both Stalkers and Zealots probably in, like, B tier or something. But when MechSpecs and Hero play them, they look like A, maybe even S tier. They look significantly better in their hands, which is kind of funny. Just micro, guys. Come on, how many times do I need to say this? Just micro. Alright, anyway, Zealots going in once again. Clem going for a big attack. 70 probes versus 47 SCVs. Main base is running basically out. Natural here, also in a little bit of trouble. Okay, good split over there on that Zealot 2. We have a new Nexus acquired here on the left side of the map. I don't know if that one is going to happen. Nah, it's gonna get cancelled. Are we gonna drop the main base? I mean, there's still 2 Phoenixes out. Colossus is now also available. Extended thermal lens, about 10 seconds away from finishing. There's the boost into the main base. Stalkers are waiting on the low ground, or sorry, on the high ground though. Phoenix is consistently dealing damage to the Medivacs. And MechSpecs obtains another win. And he's doing so off of the back of hyper-aggressive Protoss playstyles.